Okay, this is a closed road. Forest Service during travel management didn't maintain this RS2477 right away due to what they say is a significant washout on the road that would have taken a lot of expense to repair. But this route should be reopened so that the side-by-sides can have a loop. Right now, this is their turnaround point if you're in a side-by-side or a Jeep, because the Forest Service didn't reopen this road that's been here for... So then what they did is they have a quad route this way, which they don't have any barriers, no signage at the trailhead saying that this is a 50-inch trail. So of course the side-by-sides have been poaching it, and we'll show you the issues here. And this has been reported to the Forest Service. They've known about this problem for well over a year, and they haven't come in and mitigated the problem. So what's happening is there's bridges on this route that are 50-inch bridges for quads, because this is a designated quad route, and the side-by-sides have literally cut their way around because the bridge is too narrow. And so here's what you have. And then the Forest Service doesn't come down and block it, even though they know this resource damage is occurring. They don't re-sign it. They don't put a barrier. And of course the excuse is they don't have the manpower, they don't have the money, you know, of course. So this bridge, they did not go around, but there's multiple bridges on this route, and we're just going to stay with it the whole way. Normally I don't even turn the camera on for two track, but this is an example of where side-by-sides are poaching the 50-inch routes, and there needs to be vehicle width restrictions at the trailhead to prevent this. Just like the quads poaching a single track. Travel management destroyed all the beginner level easy green trails. There's no more paths out there because the quads poached all of those in order to get quad mileage put on the MVUM during travel management. Okay, so here you go. Another go around, rutted, and there's the bridge, but a side-by-side can't get across that, so they go there. One of the problems that is legitimate, and this is where Congress doesn't provide proper oversight, but they're allowing the fire side of the U.S. Forest Service to confiscate allocated money for recreation. So a fire breaks out and the fire takes all the money from recreation, and that's why the budgets have been decimated. And that's Congress's fault. That's not the Forest Service's mismanagement. That is Congress's fault for allowing the recreation budget to be completely decimated and no money left to maintain these routes. And so you have the green sticker in California, you have the Idaho sticker with the Idaho Trail Rangers out here maintaining these routes with state funds, because the federal money gets sucked right out of the system to deal with these massive wildfires because of the lack of forest management. You know, and forest management requires thinning and logging, but we toss the logger out. We don't thin anymore. We say fire is good, yet then we have these mega fires because fire is good in a managed forest, not when you have heavy fuel loads out here. So the Forest Service guys are kind of got their hands tied because their money that would allow them to take care of this continues to get stolen by the fire side. So here we go, another bridge. Okay, there's the bridge. You can see some people tried to go and they break it off. And then right through the water, climb the bank and around. That's why I'm showing this. And it would be one thing if one person did it and the Forest Service hadn't had time to react, but the Forest Service has known about this. They could have put a stop to this, and they won't. So we're going to up the pressure on them, right? Because this video is being shared with Congressman Mike Simpson. And here's another bridge. It's a bridge that's appropriate for the vehicle class that's designated on this route. However, the bigger side-by-sides can't, so they go down this steep bank through the water. What's the point of the bridge? It was supposed to prevent sediment in these waterways. Well, you are introducing sediment, so there was no point in the bridge when you allow this. And then the steep climb out on the other side, of course, introducing sediment, the evil sediment that closed so many routes. When in reality, even if this erodes and they didn't even have a bridge, the reality is the amount of dirt that's introduced to the stream is minimal. But if you want to make it a big issue and say we have to have bridges on these water crossings or we're going to close the route, well, then you need to make sure that the bridges are being used. So this goes up. Now, this is still a 50-inch route, and then this is a 50-inch route. So if the road was over there, the side-by-sides could do a loop up and over and around to Yellow Pine. But now the only way for them to do a loop is to come poach this 50-inch trail. And then the other part of that is you double the impact when you have in and out. In other words, one vehicle goes in and out. Well, if he can do a loop, that's one vehicle as opposed to turning around and being counted as the same vehicle, putting twice the amount of use. So having a loop, the trail's carrying capacity can handle twice the traffic when people loop it as opposed to going in and out. And this route, if this was the, if 50-inch vehicles use this route, then they could loop and come back down the road, or they could go out to Yellow Pine. But right now, if they go up to the lookout, it's an in and out. Where if they went up this and the road was open, they could go to the lookout and then turn it into a loop, go exit on the road or exit on the road to Yellow Pine. So the decision makers that thought this out and decided to make this a 50-inch with no filter to prevent the side-by-sides, they've actually caused more resource damage. Okay, here's another bridge. Again, they can't get across. It's actually a double bridge here. But then they come and go around and up the bank. So here, because they couldn't get around, they actually cut 2 logs in order to increase the width of this bridge, so a side-by-side can get across this 50-inch bridge. Okay, so one of the things that I want to talk about too is that the willful mismanagement, whether it's coming from Congress and how they allocate money, or whether it's coming from the decision maker at the forest level. There you go, another go around right there, 50-inch trail through the wet area. When you engage in this kind of behavior, first thing they're gonna do is, it's not my fault, it's I don't have the money, I don't have the budget, I don't have the manpower. Okay, here's another go around right there. Okay, and then degradation of the route right here. Okay, they're going to use these conditions by willfully mismanaging, regardless of how come, no money, no manpower. They're going to look at all this and say, let's close it. Okay, so from a user standpoint, it's in our best interest to never ever, because of our use, allow a trail to degrade to the point that closure is a consideration. That requires responsible use, because the Forest Service is full of environmentalists, and they are actively allowing, it's part of their strategy, is to allow a situation to degrade so that they have the excuse to go straight to closure as opposed to mitigation and fixing the situation. So users need to realize that the Forest Service doesn't have money, they don't have manpower, and they're not willing to get out here and take care of these things. So when we see an issue, we need to take care of it and not let it degrade, or we don't need to be engaged in an activity like going around those bridges that draws a negative consequence. The negative consequences is a manager that's not pro HV and has no money in their budget. They're going to look toward closure first as opposed to mitigation, and going after a grant and working with volunteers. So my point is don't degrade the trail to where you give them exactly what they want, and that is a legitimate reason to close the route. And then the problem with every route closure is that it concentrates use more and more, with more and more vehicles, more and more people wanting to get out in the backcountry. When you concentrate the use, now you exceed the trail's carrying capacity. So the land manager is sitting there laughing their ass off because they're creating a situation where the trail is being degraded, which plays right into their hand as they are not going to maintain it. And then what do you have? They get exactly what they want, a closure. So it's up to users to be responsible and take care of the routes that we use so that we don't draw negative attention to these routes. I guess we're going to go a little bit further here. So the reason everybody wants to come in here is this beautiful lake to, fish or camp or just enjoy the beauty of the area, especially before it all burned. But right up here is the end of the ATV trail, which is now a side-by-side route. So this has been blocked with logs several times. This is a single track, which they poach as far as they can and turn around. But the closure for the ATV 50-inch vehicles is right here. And in the Forest Service's defense, their trail crews have come out here and blocked this multiple times. But it needs a steel barricade if they want to stop use here, or they need to designate it down to the lake where everybody wants to go. Makes a lot of sense. Instead of making people turn around up on this hill, which there really isn't a viable turnaround, this is where they should extend the route and put the blockage down further where people can turn around easily and also go fishing and enjoy the lake. Okay, so this was built as a 50-inch trail, built with a tractor, but they obviously built it too wide because you could bring a Jeep up here with no problem at all. So then the question is why would you designate this as a 50-inch when you build a road, and when the adjacent road that washed out was a road, and you replace it with a quad trail that's plenty wide enough to deal with a Jeep. So obviously you're inviting people to poach it when you build it to road spec instead of 50-inch spec. You get the idea. It's not a quad trail, it's road width, and no wonder the side-by-sides are poaching it. So whether it's a 50 inch, which this was supposed to be 50 inch, but they made it a lot wider than 50 inch. Side by side could easily come up this, and they have. But might look flat on video, but that's going right up. And what they did here is they go below grade on both sides in order to get the dirt for this mound that I'm sitting on, which is called a rolling dip. You probably can't see it, but I'm sitting right on a rolling dip. And then they tractor out that way. So look at all the soil that's lost, okay? Because this thing needs to be above grade. It needs to be outsloped so the water doesn't stay on the route. But no. These tractor operators drop the blade. They go below grade and then push up a big mound of dirt called a rolling dip. And then the soil goes off and is lost forever. This is, I'm sorry, but this is totally incompetent construction and use of a tractor. There's nothing in the Forest Service manuals that says to build a route like this. There's nothing in a tractor building, and they say this doesn't occur, yet every time I see a tractor drop a blade, I see this kind of stuff where they channel the water. And then they talk about sediment and loss of soil and all that, yet they create the condition that displaces soil from the trail bed. Ridiculous. And then of course this isn't something a hand crew can come fix. It takes another tractor. So what will they do? They'll smooth it all out. They'll go deeper. They'll make that trench there, the trench deeper in order to get enough soil to build up this rolling dip. It's insanity that these people are considered professionals. They're not professionals that do this with their tractors. And then so that road out there in the distance is the Frank Church Wilderness. So the road is on just outside the wilderness, and everything on the other side, the far side, is Frank Church Wilderness. And